There is a place in America where the laws of physics break down, where the government has spent millions of taxpayer dollars investigating phenomena they publicly claim don't exist, and where even the most hardened skeptics have walked away questioning everything they thought they knew about reality. This place sits quietly in the high desert of northeastern Utah, surrounded by miles of empty scrubland and red rock mesas, and what happens within its boundaries has remained one of the most closely guarded secrets in modern American history. I'm about to show you evidence that has never been properly explained, testimony from credible witnesses who risked their careers to speak out, and documents that prove beyond any shadow of doubt that our government knows far more about what lurks at Skinwalker Ranch than they have ever admitted to the American public. But before we go any further, I need you to understand something crucial. This is not just another paranormal story. This is not entertainment. What I'm about to share with you involves classified government programs, billion-dollar defense contractors, United States senators, and phenomena so terrifying that trained military personnel have suffered psychological breakdowns after witnessing them firsthand. Some researchers believe that whatever exists at Skinwalker Ranch represents a threat to national security so profound that a complete information blackout has been maintained for decades. Others believe the ranch is a gateway to something far more ancient and far more dangerous than any government could ever hope to control. By the end of this video, you will know what they have been hiding, and once you know, you cannot unknow it. So if you're ready to discover the truth about one of America's most dangerous secrets, stay with me, because everything changes in the next 30 minutes. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we cover the mysteries that mainstream media refuses to touch. And trust me, after today's video, you're going to want to see what comes next. Now, let's talk about Skinwalker Ranch. Located approximately 320 miles south of Salt Lake City, Utah, there sits a 512-acre property that has been called the most scientifically studied paranormal hotspot on planet Earth. The Ute Nation, whose ancestors have inhabited this region for thousands of years, this land has always been forbidden territory. They call it the path of the Skinwalker, and for generations, tribal elders have warned their people never to set foot on this cursed ground. The Ute believe that an ancient evil resides here, something that predates human civilization, something that cannot be killed, reasoned with, or escaped from. And here's what makes this so disturbing. Modern science, with all its instruments and methodologies, has not been able to disprove a single aspect of these ancient warnings. In fact, every scientific investigation conducted at the ranch has only deepened the mystery. But what exactly is happening at Skinwalker Ranch? The phenomena reported there read like a catalog of every unexplained occurrence in human history. Unidentified aerial craft that defy the known laws of aerodynamics. Cattle mutilated with surgical precision, drained of blood, with organs removed without any visible incision marks. Portals that open in the sky, through which enormous craft emerge before vanishing without a trace. Shadow figures that materialize inside locked buildings. Electronic equipment that malfunctions in specific locations with perfect repeatability. Invisible forces that physically assault researchers. Voices that speak from empty rooms. Animals that refuse to enter certain areas, sometimes dying of apparent fright when forced to cross invisible boundaries. And here's the part that should terrify every single American watching this video. The United States government has not only acknowledged that these phenomena exist, but has spent at least $22 million of taxpayer money specifically to study them. That program was called the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, or AAWSAP, and it was hidden inside the Defense Intelligence Agency's budget under the direction of a Nevada senator with close ties to the ranch's former owner. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, because what happened inside that program, what researchers discovered, and why the program was suddenly terminated remains classified to this day. To understand what they're hiding at Skinwalker Ranch, we need to go back to the very beginning, and the beginning is far older than most people realize. Long before European settlers arrived in what is now northeastern Utah, the Ute people had established clear boundaries around the Uinta Basin. This wasn't done for territorial purposes in the traditional sense. It was done for protection. According to Ute oral tradition, the land we now call Skinwalker Ranch sits at the intersection of two spiritual pathways, one that connects our world to the world above, and one that connects our world to something below. The elders spoke of the Skinwalker, a witch or sorcerer, who had traded their humanity for supernatural power, who could shapeshift into any animal form, who could drive men insane with a single glance, and who could travel between dimensions at will. For centuries, the Ute maintained a strict prohibition against entering this land after dark. This wasn't superstition. This was survival. Because according to their accounts, those who violated this prohibition did not always return, and those who did return were often changed in ways that made them unrecognizable to their own families. The Spanish explorers who arrived in the 16th and 17th centuries recorded similar warnings from native peoples throughout the region, and some of their expedition journals contain descriptions of phenomena that perfectly match modern reports from the ranch. Lights in the sky that moved against the wind, animals found dead and mutilated without explanation, men who reported being followed by something they could sense but never see. Fast forward to the early 20th century. Homesteaders began settling in the Uinta Basin, attracted by cheap land and the promise of a new beginning. The families who settled on and around what is now Skinwalker Ranch quickly discovered that something was deeply wrong with their new property. Livestock died at inexplicable rates. Crops failed in specific fields while thriving in adjacent plots with identical soil composition. Family members reported nightmares so vivid and so consistent that they began documenting them, only to find that multiple people were having the exact same dream on the exact same night. Children spoke of playmates that adults could never see. Dogs refused to leave the porch after sunset. And occasionally, in the darkest hours of night, every person in the house would hear the same sound, a low humming, vibration that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. That built to an almost unbearable intensity before stopping as suddenly as it began. These early accounts were dismissed as frontier superstition, the products of isolated minds and harsh living conditions. But here's what no one could explain. The phenomena never stopped. And more importantly, the phenomena never changed. The exact same experiences reported by homesteaders in 1910 were still being reported by residents in 1950, in 1970, and 1990. Whatever was happening at this location was not going away, and it did not care whether the people experiencing it believed in it or not. Then came the Sherman family, and everything changed. In 1994, Terry and Gwen Sherman purchased the ranch with dreams of building a successful cattle operation. They were practical, no-nonsense ranchers from New Mexico, exactly the kind of people who would dismiss paranormal stories as nonsense. Within hours of moving into the property, they began experiencing things that would fundamentally alter their understanding of reality. On their very first day, the Shermans encountered an enormous wolf in their pasture. This wolf was unlike any animal they had ever seen. It stood nearly waist-high at the shoulder, far larger than any wolf on record. It approached the family without fear, allowed them to pet it, and exhibited behavior that Terry Sherman later described as almost tame, almost friendly. 20 minutes later, that same wolf calmly walked to their corral, grabbed the calf by the snout, and began dragging it away. Terry fired on the wolf with a .44 Magnum revolver at close range. The bullet struck the animal, and Terry clearly saw the impact. But the wolf did not react. It simply released the calf, looked at Terry with what he described as unmistakable intelligence, and walked slowly away. Terry and his son tracked the wolf for over a mile. The track simply stopped in the middle of a field. No blood, no disturbed ground, no indication that the animal had changed direction. The tracks just ended, as if the wolf had ceased to exist. That was day one. Over the next 18 months, the Sherman family would experience hundreds of individual paranormal events, each more terrifying than the last. They observed structured craft in the sky that moved in ways that violated every known principle of aerodynamics. They lost cattle to mutilation so precise and so bloodless that veterinarians could not explain how the procedures had been performed. They saw orbs of light that seemed to exhibit intelligent behavior, responding to their presence, following their vehicles, hovering outside their windows at night. They heard voices speaking in languages they could not identify. They found their property disturbed in ways that suggested an intelligence was testing them, watching them, studying their reactions. But the most terrifying aspect of the Sherman family's experience was what happened when they tried to fight back. Every time Terry Sherman attempted to document or confront the phenomena, something happened to make clear that whatever was responsible was far more powerful than he could comprehend. Cameras malfunctioned at crucial moments. Newly installed locks were found open with no sign of forced entry. And on multiple occasions, Terry experienced what he could only describe as warnings, events that seemed designed to remind him that he was not in control that he never had been, and that resistance was not only futile, but potentially dangerous. In 1996, the Shermans had reached their breaking point. Terry Sherman did something that ranchers almost never do. He sold his land at a significant loss, desperate to escape whatever had claimed his property. But he didn't sell to just anyone. He sold to a man whose involvement would transform Skinwalker Ranch from a local curiosity into a matter of national security. Robert Bigelow is not a man who believes in anything without evidence. He is a billionaire aerospace entrepreneur who founded Budget Suites of America and later Bigelow Aerospace, a company that designs and manufactures expandable space habitats for NASA and private clients. He is a serious businessman with serious credentials, and when he purchased Skinwalker Ranch in 1996, he did so with a specific purpose in mind. He wanted to apply rigorous scientific methodology to paranormal phenomena, and he believed that this particular location offered the best opportunity to do exactly that. What followed was the most intensive scientific investigation of paranormal activity ever conducted on American soil. Bigelow established the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS, and staffed it with credentialed scientists, former law enforcement officials, and technical specialists. He installed extensive monitoring equipment across the property, including multiple camera systems, motion sensors, radiation detectors, and various electromagnetic field measuring devices. He deployed teams of trained observers who maintained continuous surveillance of the ranch, documenting everything they witnessed with military-grade precision. And the phenomena did not disappoint. During the NIDS era, researchers documented hundreds of events that defied conventional explanation. But what made this documentation so compelling was not just the quantity of the observations. It was the quality. These were not untrained witnesses making casual reports. These were scientists and investigators following strict protocols, using calibrated equipment, and cross-referencing their observations with multiple data sources. And what they found was deeply unsettling. The phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch appeared to be intelligent, not just unexplained, but actively responsive to human observation and intervention. Cameras that were positioned to capture specific areas would suddenly malfunction just as events began occurring in those exact locations. Equipment that had functioned flawlessly for weeks would fail at precisely the moment when documentation was most crucial. And on several occasions, researchers reported that the phenomena seemed to anticipate their actions, as if whatever was responsible could read their intentions and respond accordingly. One of the most famous incidents from this period has come to be known as the bulletproof wolf encounter, similar to the Sherman's original experience, but witnessed by trained NIDS investigators. But there were far more disturbing events that the public has never been told about. NIDS investigators documented what they believed were portals, literal openings in the fabric of space through which entities and craft could transit. On multiple occasions, researchers observed a yellowish-orange light appear in the sky, expand into what they described as a tunnel or doorway, and then witnessed large objects emerge through this opening before the portal closed behind them. These were not quick glimpses or uncertain observations. These were sustained events that lasted long enough for multiple witnesses to observe them, discuss what they were seeing, and attempt documentation, which invariably failed due to equipment malfunction. The creatures observed at Skinwalker Ranch during this period were equally disturbing. Investigators reported entities that resembled the skinwalkers of Ute legend, Humanoid figures that moved with unnatural speed, that appeared and disappeared without warning, and that seemed to exist just at the edge of human perception. There were also reports of what researchers called the creature, a massive entity that witnesses described as resembling a muscular humanoid figure covered in dark hair, standing well over 7 feet tall with eyes that reflected light in ways that suggested a non-human visual system. But here is where the story takes its most disturbing turn. NIDS investigators began experiencing what researchers now call the hitchhiker effect. Whatever was at Skinwalker Ranch did not stay at Skinwalker Ranch. Researchers who spent time at the property reported that paranormal phenomena followed them home. Their family members began experiencing unexplained events. Their properties became sites of strange activity. And in several cases, investigators reported psychological symptoms that suggested some form of external influence on their mental state. Dr. Colm Kelleher, one of the primary investigators during the NIDS era, has stated publicly that the phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch appeared to be intentional. Not random, not natural, but directed. Something was conducting operations at this location, and human beings who entered that zone were being evaluated, manipulated, or possibly transformed by that process. In 2004, after nearly a decade of investigation, NIDs quietly shut down operations at Skinwalker Ranch. The official explanation was that the phenomena had become less frequent and that continued research was not justified. But insiders have suggested a very different story. The phenomena hadn't stopped. The phenomena had become so dangerous that continued research posed unacceptable risks to personnel. And there was something else. Something the organization had discovered that could not be made public. Something that changed everything. What did NIDS find? That question leads us directly to the most explosive revelation in the entire Skinwalker Ranch story. The secret government program that proves our elected officials have been lying to us for years. In 2017, the New York Times published a story that should have dominated headlines for months. The article revealed that the United States Department of Defense had operated a secret program to investigate unidentified aerial phenomena, and that this program had been funded through earmarks inserted into the budget by Nevada Senator Harry Reid. The program was called AATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, and its existence was treated as a major revelation about government interest in UFOs. But here's what that article didn't tell you. AATIP was the public-facing name of a much larger and much more classified program called AAWSAP, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program. And AAWSAP's primary research site was Skinwalker Ranch. This is not conspiracy theory. This is documented fact. The Defense Intelligence Agency awarded a $22 million contract to Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, a company owned by Robert Bigelow, specifically to study anomalous phenomena with a focus on the Utah property. Under this contract, government researchers conducted investigations at Skinwalker Ranch from 2008 to 2012. And what they documented was so disturbing that some of the program's participants have experienced lasting psychological trauma. James Lukotsky, the Defense Intelligence Agency scientist who initiated AAWSAP, has publicly acknowledged that his interest in the program was sparked by a direct personal experience at Skinwalker Ranch. During a visit to the property, Lukotsky witnessed something emerge from a wall-mounted fixture. He has described this entity as a creature that was unlike anything in his scientific experience, something that appeared to materialize from nowhere, and that convinced him that the phenomena at the ranch were not only real, but represented a genuine national security concern. The 38 reports produced under the AAWSAP program remain classified. However, individuals who participated in the program have disclosed that these reports cover subjects far more disturbing than unidentified aerial phenomena. The reports allegedly document evidence of non-human intelligence operating on American soil, evidence of technology that exceeds any known human capability by centuries, evidence that whatever is present at Skinwalker Ranch has been there for a very long time and shows no indication of leaving, But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the government's involvement is what happened to the people who participated in the research. According to multiple sources, a significant percentage of individuals who conducted investigations at Skinwalker Ranch under the AAWSAP program experienced lasting effects. Some reported ongoing paranormal phenomena in their homes. Others experienced medical issues that could not be explained by conventional diagnosis. And several investigators reportedly suffered psychological breakdowns that ended their careers. One researcher, whose identity has been protected, allegedly experienced such severe effects that he required hospitalization. Another investigator reported that his family was tormented by unseen entities for months after his time at the ranch. A third claimed that something attached itself to him during his investigations, something that followed him for years, that influenced his thoughts, and that seemed to feed on fear and confusion. These are not isolated incidents. The hitchhiker effect has been reported by dozens of individuals who have spent time at Skinwalker Ranch, from the Sherman family to NAGE investigators to AAWSAP researchers to members of the current ownership team. Whatever is at that location does not respect boundaries. It does not stay contained. And it appears to have a particular interest in studying human beings in their natural environment, following them home to observe how they live, how they react to fear, and how they explain the inexplicable to themselves and others. Senator Harry Reid, who championed the AAWSAP program and fought for its continued funding, has made statements that should concern every American. Before his death in 2021, Reid stated publicly that he believed the phenomena investigated at Skinwalker Ranch represented a genuine unknown, something that our current scientific understanding could not explain. He also stated that he believed far more classified research had been conducted than the public knew about, and that he had personally been denied access to programs that explored these phenomena in greater depth. Think about what that means. A sitting United States senator, a man who had access to the highest levels of classified information, was being denied access to programs related to Skinwalker Ranch and similar phenomena. If a senator with top secret clearance cannot get access to this information, what exactly is being hidden? And who is doing the hiding? The current owner of Skinwalker Ranch, real estate magnate Brandon Fugal, purchased the property in 2016 and has continued scientific research while also opening aspects of the investigation to public view through the History Channel series The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. But even with this increased transparency, there are clear indications that not everything is being disclosed. So what are they actually hiding at Skinwalker Ranch? Based on the available evidence, testimony from credible witnesses, and analysis of government involvement, several deeply disturbing possibilities emerge. First, there is compelling evidence that Skinwalker Ranch contains some form of permanent anomaly, a location where the normal rules of physics do not consistently apply. This is not metaphor. Researchers have documented measurable effects that cannot be explained by conventional science. Equipment readings that violate known physical laws. Materials that exhibit properties inconsistent with their molecular composition. Electromagnetic phenomena that suggest energies far exceeding what should be present in that environment. Dr. Travis Taylor, the chief scientist currently investigating the ranch, has publicly stated that the team has measured electromagnetic pulses that will require massive amounts of energy to generate, appearing from no identifiable source. They have detected structures underground that do not match any known geological formation. They have observed aerial phenomena on military-grade radar systems that demonstrate capabilities exceeding any known human technology. Second, there is evidence suggesting that non-human intelligence is actively present at the location and has been for an extremely long time. The consistency of reports across centuries, the responsive nature of the phenomena, the apparent ability to anticipate human actions and counteract documentation efforts all point to something that is not merely present, but is actively engaged with human observers. This intelligence appears to be studying us, testing our reactions, and possibly manipulating our perceptions in ways we cannot fully detect. Third, and perhaps most disturbing, there is evidence that the phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch are not confined to that location and possibly never were. The hitchhiker effect suggests that whatever is present at the ranch can attach itself to individuals, follow them to new locations, and continue its activities far from the property itself. This raises the terrifying possibility that Skinwalker Ranch is not a container for these phenomena, but a point of origin, a place where something enters our reality that then spreads outward in ways we cannot track or control. What is the government hiding about all of this? Based on available evidence, several possibilities seem likely. They may know what is causing these phenomena and have determined that the truth is too destabilizing for public release. If the United States government has confirmed the existence of non-human intelligence operating on American soil, revealing this information would have profound implications for every aspect of human society. Religious institutions, scientific establishments, military doctrines, political systems, all will be thrown into chaos by confirmed proof that we are not alone and that these other intelligences have been among us for a very long time. They may have made contact with whatever is responsible and entered into agreements that the public knows nothing about. This sounds like the stuff of science fiction, but consider the evidence. Government programs specifically designed to study these phenomena, massive funding hidden in classified budgets, extreme secrecy maintained across multiple administrations, and statements from individuals with direct knowledge suggesting that much more has been discovered than has ever been disclosed. They may be actively concealing technology recovered from Skinwalker Ranch or similar locations. The Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program was not just a scientific research initiative. It was housed within the Defense Intelligence Agency and was specifically designed to identify weapons applications for discovered phenomena. If technologies have been recovered that could provide military advantage, they will be among the most closely guarded secrets in American history. Or perhaps most disturbing of all, they may not be in control. The phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch have demonstrated an ability to counteract human efforts to study or document them. They have shown what appears to be intelligence, intentionality, and power that exceeds human capability. If the government has discovered that these phenomena cannot be controlled, contained, or negotiated with, that too would be information they might decide the public should not have. So where does this leave us? What should we make of everything I've shared with you in the last 30 minutes? The evidence for anomalous phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch is extensive, consistent, and comes from credible sources. Ranchers, scientists, government officials, military personnel all have documented experiences that cannot be explained by conventional means. The United States government has spent millions of dollars studying these phenomena and has gone to extraordinary lengths to keep the results classified. And the phenomena themselves continue to this day, documented by an ongoing research effort that has access to some of the most sophisticated equipment available. What they're hiding at Skinwalker Ranch may well be the greatest secret of our time. Evidence of non-human intelligence, technology that defies our understanding of physics, proof that the universe is far stranger and far more populated than we have been led to believe. And possibly, just possibly, evidence that humanity is not at the top of the food chain, that something else exists alongside us, watching, studying, and pursuing agendas we cannot comprehend. I want you to understand something important. This is not about believing or disbelieving. This is about evidence. The evidence that something profound is happening at Skinwalker Ranch is overwhelming. The evidence that our government knows far more than it has disclosed is equally compelling. And the evidence that whatever is responsible for these phenomena represents something genuinely unknown, something outside the boundaries of current human knowledge, is becoming increasingly difficult to dismiss. The question is no longer whether these phenomena are real. The question is what they mean, who is responsible, and what comes next. I want to hear from you. Have you had experiences that you cannot explain? Do you have information about government programs or research that has not been made public? Do you live near Skinwalker Ranch and have stories that have never been told? Leave your comments below. Share your experiences. Because the more we know, the harder it becomes for them to keep hiding the truth. If this video helped you understand something you didn't know before, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that this information matters, and it helps us reach more people who deserve to know what's really happening. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we're going to continue covering Skinwalker Ranch and similar mysteries. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video, where we will be diving even deeper into the government programs that have been hidden from the American public for decades. The truth about Skinwalker Ranch is out there. Some of it I've shared with you today. But there is so much more, so much that remains classified, suppressed, or simply unknown. And someone, somewhere, knows the whole story. Maybe it's a government official who will someday come forward. Maybe it's a researcher who will finally break their silence. Or maybe, just maybe, it's whatever is at that ranch, waiting for the moment when it decides to reveal itself to all of us. Until then, keep watching the skies. Keep asking questions. And never let them tell you that the unexplained is impossible. Because at Skinwalker Ranch, the impossible happens every single day. I'll see you in the next video. Stay curious. Stay vigilant. And whatever you do, stay safe.